Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar&Brawl. Hope you're having a decent day. So, as always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam, and we recently surpassed 1,000 subscribers. And in our community tab, we thanked everyone who has subscribed so far, and we also posted that we're going to do a little movie special. We want to start doing these regularly, right, Sam? We're going to call it Leftist Movie Review for now. I mean, just to kind of show a little bit of what
leftist cultural review, I thought.
Oh yeah,
But it can be other things
true.
than
I like
movies.
that too. Leftist culture review, just to kind of, give a little bit of hint of where we kind of come from and what we plan to do with these movies and other things that we review. So it's a bit different than a normal movie review. But yeah, so the movie we have for today is Network, and Sam is going to set it up. It's from 1976. He told me about it. He's seen it a bunch of times. I just watched it, and it's already one of my favorite movies ever, like hands down, 100%, no doubt. Really
Glad.
awesome movie. But yeah, Sam, so why don't you tell us a little bit what it's about, give a brief overview as well as your take. Then I'll give my short take. My take will be much shorter than yours, so much more. And then we'll kind of go point by point as you suggested.
Sure. I'll give a brief overview and a brief overview of how it's been viewed in the past and how it's viewed now. So it's written by Paddy Chayefsky. I probably mispronouncing that. Very famous writer. He's back in the days in the 70s, and he's considered one of the legendary screenwriters. Directed by Sidney Lumet, who's super legendary director and just one of my favorite directors of all time. If I'm not mistaken, he made The Dog Day Afternoon. I always mix The Dog Day Afternoon with Bloody Sunday or something. So I think he made The Dog Day Afternoon, and just every movie he's made is great. But it's about a fictional television network, UBS, and it's a struggle with poor ratings. So there's this news anchor, Howard Beale. He's a long time evening newscaster, and he learns that he's going to be let go in 2 weeks because of his poor ratings, and so he decides to go on air and says that in his next show, or in his next week's show, I think he will commit suicide. That leads to everybody panicking at the network, cutting him off and all that. Then they have a meeting, and he says he's going to apologize, but the network, everybody wants him out, just thrown out. But the editor, the head of the news segment, sort of says that give him a chance to apologize and goodbye he's been here for so many years and all that. He goes back on air, and instead of apologizing, he just loses it, and he utters the very famous line.
I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
I'm mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore. And he expresses frustration at the fact that, at the American society, at American culture, corporatism, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this side character that she's ambitious news producer, executive type figure, sort of the new generation of executive news producers. And she sees a potential in him because they see the ratings for when he announced he's going to commit suicide, and then when he was supposed to apologize and that he didn't, he went mad. His ratings went crazy. So they start focusing on him and they give him his own show. And by the way, a spoiler warning. We should have probably
forgot to mention
definitely put that in the title. But yeah, a spoiler warning for the whole of, because we're gonna do a deep dive in the thing. Although it's been out for, I think now 50 years, which is crazy to me, but it's been out for 50 years or so.
Shit, yeah.
But these only
45 years, 1976.
76, all right, 45.
Yeah.
And they give him his own show, and you have all these subplots with the communists and like sort of Black Panther type groups going on. And It's a yeah. That's the setup of the story, basically. That this person starts going ranting on television. It starts getting good rating, and then the network becomes happy with him and wants to focus on that market. Now, we're gonna deep dive into the. I think anybody who watches this has seen the movie, so we're gonna deep dive into the specifics that this movie has, like the ending. Again, a spoiler warning: the movie ends with Howard Beale being killed. It's insinuated by the management. There's a famous scene where the owner of UBS comes in and intervenes.
And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
In the situation, and he has a very interesting agenda and all that. So we're going to deep dive onto that. But yeah, that was the setup. I just wanted to give the general setup just to remind everybody what was going on. And now, yeah, I wanted to give the overall reaction. At the time it came out, most critics praised it. They did say it was a bit preachy, it was a bit long, may not be for popular culture. I think Ebert gave it a sort of so-so review, Roger Ebert, famous film critic. And then interestingly though, I haven't fact checked this. I heard this on a Wisecrack podcast. They do a great podcast about movies, and they did one episode about this. That the people from the industry didn't like it, and they said the news industry. They said this is so outrageous, so overblown. This is never gonna happen. This is complete. It's like somebody who doesn't know anything about newscasting and all that. So they didn't like the reception, but the critics liked the movie as a movie. They thought it was a bit preachy and a bit sort of a bit, from a position of like, oh, everything is getting to shit, so very pessimistic, cynical. And but it did get nominated, I think, for 6-7 Oscars, a lot of them. It won a couple of Oscars for acting and stuff. The acting is just out of this world. Peter Finch, Howard, Ned Beatley, William Holden, Faye Dunaway, all of them, I think. Oh, Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall is, Robert Duvall. But yeah, all of them obviously got good reaction. The legacy of this film, to get to that though, was that increasingly people said that it's becoming increasingly people loved it more and more. And with the advent of cable television, and then the 24-hour news, and then internet, and outrage culture, and Alex Jones of this, Bill O'Reilly's of this world, then Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones's, and same, by the way, in the left, sort of, I would argue, idiot, like, I would say on the left, although more nationalistic in a sense, idiots like, what's that guy who was a sports newscaster and then became a political, white hair, and I completely forget his name. Anyway, he was very big on CNBC at some point. Or even, for example, Glenn Beck and Alex Jones, I think, have directly said that they want to be Howard Beale. So that's like who they idolize to be. So I think as time passed, people have become increasingly like, Jesus Christ, how how that's the first thing we're gonna discuss when we get to the themes, how correct it was about the future. Aaron Sorkin, famous screenwriter and movie director, one of the people whose work I really like, he made the movie The Trial of Chicago 7, which we covered actually here. He said that, Chayefsky, the screenwriter, was more prophetic than George Orwell about the future. And I'm not a big fan of Orwell, to be fair, but I definitely agree with that statement. And again, I heard that, I haven't been able to confirm it, but apparently 10 years ago or something, 2015 or 2012 or something, George Clooney was planning to make a television remake of it. And he showed the movie to a couple of people like who are 15 to 20-year-olds. And they liked it. They didn't loved it, engaged with the themes or stuff, but they didn't originally when this film came out, by the way, it was a satire, and everybody saw it as a satire and as a sort of, not a like comedy, ha ha ha,
Yeah.
but it was a satire. Like this scene, there's a scene where Faye Donovan, for example, says that I want this anti-establishment program on my network, and this is supposed to be a laugh. This is supposed to
Yeah.
be a joke thingy, and like people who are 15 to 20, they watched that and went, oh yeah,
And
that
what
makes
15,
complete
20?
sense.
I forgot that it was, I knew you
But
told me
then,
that it's satire, and I heard that it's comedy. I watched the movie, I completely forgot until I started reading stuff that it was whatever
oh
dark
yeah,
comedy or satire. I
this
didn't
is
even,
this is nuts.
like
Yeah,
only the
some of
last
it,
scene I
I mean, come
told
on,
you.
some of it you can tell. The bit, the black lady who's, I think, communist or black
Yeah,
hand
they're
or
communist.
something,
Yeah.
and she said, yeah, don't fuck with my distribution money. That's like, that's like, what?
I just thought
It's
it was
so
honest.
good. Yeah, it's such a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, no, but nowadays, I have a feeling like most people think if you have if they leave the mic on one time and you hear producers talk, that's what they would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely why do we have Bill O'Reilly? He says outrageous
Yeah.
stuff, and then people are gonna be like, yeah. But
No,
then,
exactly.
so yeah, that was the overall. We'll get into the themes and some issues perhaps, but what was your take as a first time viewer?
Yeah, I mean, it's my first time that I watched it, and I think, I mean, I already told you, I already mentioned it, so we'll get to the points really quickly, but I loved it in both terms, entertainment wise. I mean, I was super entertained, and I mean, the subplots, there are so many subplots, and I'm sure we're probably going to miss a bunch of them. And I've already seen this movie 1.5 times, and I'm not big into movies, I really am not, but once I've seen a movie and I like it, I just like watching the same movie. So I'm probably going to watch this movie like every year, and I'm going to be pissed when I see the other subplots and we forgot to mention them. But yeah, filled with subplots. So I think we should just get to it. But just the movie itself was amazing too in terms of entertainment. But I think, yeah, we should get into the subplots. That'll be easier, better for like talking, and then maybe I'll bring up a few which aren't
Oh,
there.
you mean themes or
Yeah.
subplots?
Sorry, I said subplots because you mentioned it before. But yeah, the themes. However, we had decided to break it down. Right now, I think we
Okay.
should
I
proceed with
thought we
them.
start with the yeah we start with something we mentioned and sort of covered in the legacy thing, which is it's extremely goddamn prophetic movie, and I'll get to my specific point besides the point that everybody recognizes, which is that you see the media industry just sensationalism taking over, and yeah, basically it was very super like it's and in 1970s there were these regulations in place in the US that you had to have this amount of like programming, and you have to allow this amount of opposition to talk and all that. So it was it's wondrous that somebody can see into future to me, and yeah, it's really weird.
But
What
apparently,
do
if
you
I'm
think
not
about this
mistaken,
aspect?
yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read this, that the people who wrote the movie or the person who directed it, they had some news experience, right? Like in the 50s. So if I'm
I
not
uh,
mistaken,
I
they,
I
but
have no idea, but I'm sure. Yeah, probably.
and the
I haven't.
movies like, but the movies that kind of is saying that is contrasting with the 50s, right? Like the 50s was like this good period of the news where they would try to be as
And
informative as possible, and now
to
it's
be
gone
honest,
down to this.
sure. And if you kind of want to maybe have a criticism of the movie, until like 20 years after the movie's prophecies don't come true. Maybe not 20 years, but until 15 years at least. Like until 1990s and the 24-hour television news channels and all that. I think that's the thing though, but it's still like almost 2 decades earlier than everyone. They saw what's gonna happen. Like the news is gonna change from,
Yeah.
first of all, yeah, everybody, there are still examples of a news that is being subsidized by,
Yeah.
they lose money. But nowadays news is actually doesn't like news is entertainment. I mean, it's crazy. Like recently, we had the case of Rachel Maddow and Tucker Carlson, both of whom, in a court of law, defended themselves as this is entertainment program, and what we are saying is not like factual or news, but their show and the way it's. I mean, from what I understand, it's presented as a news program. I don't
Yeah.
think most people who watch that go think that this is a entertainment show. So yeah, I would say still it's very odd to me that they could guess it so much. Although we will get at the end of this video, we'll have a recommendation section. There is a movie which is even from further back, which I'll mention. So
I mean, I think, but I mean, just like we're saying, there's so many subplots in this movie. I guess the other one about why the media landscape they're saying is changing is this whole profit motive, right? And at the same time, I couldn't tell, but they're being taken over, right, by bigger media conglomerate during the movie where that
yes,
happens, right?
yeah.
So that's happening. So at the same time, there's all these like corporate restructuring throughout the movie the whole time. And there's also the profit motive that they bring in, right? Because in the very beginning, one of the top heads tells the head of the news, he's like, listen, you have $33 million in deficit per year. And then he says, well, that's not an issue, like blah, blah, blah. I don't respond to you. But no, as we see, that becomes more and more of an issue. And the reason that they agreed to keep him on, I guess, is because it's becoming profitable. But then another layer of the plot is added, I guess, where the head of the conglomerate, he doesn't like what he's saying anymore, because even though it's profitable, he's kind of saying stuff against the corporation and against America.
Yeah, that's where that's another aspect. It was that the whole that we are seeing a merger of different industries.
Yeah.
That it's profitable, but then because he's threatening the money that Saudis or whoever is pouring into the network, so that deal might undermine them, because he goes on a rant about democracy and this foreign money coming in. And then you have that great scene that Jensen comes in and gives him a sort of a semi-religious speech that's kind of about, which, by the way, in my view, he gives the best description of how the world works. In my view, that's the most precise and exact, exactly. There's no East, there's no West, there's no Saudi Arabia, there's no America. There's only Exxon, IBM, and Apple now, or Google, or whatever. But then you see that that's quite interesting. But that's, you mentioned this, 33 million deficit, and then you have this thing about Robert Duvall wanting to keep his job, and you see that the management is in this rat race as well between themselves. And then it's really interesting because you have the owner coming in and giving that a speech to Howard Beale and making him this cynic prophet that just rails against nothing can be done type thing. And then the management is unhappy with that, because I think his ratings starts going down. Because people wanted sort of action. And then you have the management, not the owner. The owner didn't care if there weren't that many viewers. He just wanted that ideology out there, so to speak, that sort of mode of thinking out there. But so they have him killed. And that was so fascinating for me in a way, because in a way, now you look at, for example, Tucker Carlson and stuff. Tucker Carlson, I think, is the most highest viewed person, and he only about 4 million viewers in the US. Good Morning Joe, they don't have large viewers like back in the days, like 30 million or something. Very, very few, but they sort of set the agenda. And then you see the difference between even management's interest can clash with the owner's interest. And it kind of, in a way, it reminded me of a video we did recently about Intercept and Glenn Greenwald and all that. And you can clearly see, billionaires have their own agenda. The management has its own agenda. Then you have others that have their own agenda. So I think, and in a way, that's why I'm saying it's crazy
100%.
prophetic, because besides the fact that it guessed the outrage culture and the cable news thing, it sort of guessed how it will be tamed and how it will become sort of another daily thing after a while as well. So it's the profit motive, everything about it is just crazy.
And I mean, so many parallels. I don't know if I just had two parallel points that I want to bring up, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow that we're going with. But I mean, two parallels with right now. which are very interesting. I mean, one is if you watch it during Trump, of course, like the MAGA thing is kind of exactly like what he's saying. He's fed up with the situation. We can't take it anymore. I guess he doesn't say let's make our country great again, but it's the exact same point. I mean, that's a very obvious
It's the same
parallel,
as,
but
I mean, he might not be a racist, where he's like the non-racist version of, or he's expressing the same frustrations,
yeah,
or
popular
at
anger.
least, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, popular.
But the second one is also the social media one, right? Because TV's made out to be like this destructive force, right? Like he says it, like the main guy says, the
That's
TV has done this to you guys and it's killed you guys and like, you can't think anymore.
your Bugs Bunny generation.
Yeah, and the same things are kind of said about social media, which there is some truth to it, but of course it's just taken, I think, way overboard, and it was very similar.
I to be fair, that's the thing. I wanted to leave that for I want to do that in the criticism, because that's my main criticism or issue with the movie, which
So
I
we can
think is
come back
perfect.
to this.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should.
So we should come back with this. Come back to this.
Yeah, what is your other point? Yeah, we definitely.
No, the other one was just the Trump one that was very quick. I mean, it's literally the same thing, and I mean that's that's a very
I
obvious
mean,
parallel.
Trump, the
Popularism
firing
and
line. I think there was firing line was a show, one of the early shows, or 16. These shows that would put like one right wing guy, one left wing guy, or then you have shows that like they do a show Mouse Tesunga, or who covers the activities of this group that is clearly like a Black Panther sort of allegory. And now you have that. You literally have that. Like you have people like Alex Jones who are basically serving a tiny group and like cult and or Wash or whoever. But
or I just have one more. Sorry, I just remembered this other point that just about the telling what's going to happen in the future. I mean, the lady, which, okay, let me talk about the main lady character. I loved it. So she was the Diane Lady. She was head of programming. Dunaway. She was head of programming, and they brought her in for programming, and then she sees how this guy can be entertaining, and she asks to take over. So it's the whole thing of making news more entertaining and all that, and for profits. And she's like so insanely driven. And I guess there's also during that time, I mean, she's probably like one of the first few like women during that time who can, they don't have to be a housewife anymore. They can be like this professional who like, who's just obsessed with her work. And she's purely obsessed with her work, and they juxtapose that with another more like family oriented character. So I mean, I loved her, and like the dynamics with her, and she would go talk to people higher up, and she was just like so confident, and like she just seemed to be like so ahead of her time, even though I mean she's kind of like a bad person, I guess, in a way. But I mean, she goes so far as being ahead of her time that somewhere like her character kind of invents reality TV, because during this whole show, during the whole movie, she's trying to get this reality show going on around this group of this Black Panther kind of group. She wants them to have like a weekly reality show. So I mean, her character and the things that she was trying to do and everything were just amazing. And I mean, she was like so into her work that they even kind of like, when she's having like sex with the character and all this, like she can't stop watching the TV. And I think she kind of, like climaxes during like certain parts of what she's watching on TV. Just insane stuff.
She's like, I mean, they say like a strong female characters, and then, they do movies that are so like cheesy and in your face. And this movie is giving you like one of the coolest anti-heroes probably out there, like in 1970s. And it's a strong female character, and it doesn't need any, like she's actually probably, she would be, I don't know, but I don't think she has any beliefs or ideologies, but she's not somebody who's like concerned with feminism or anything like that.
No.
Or she's just concerned with money. But it's just so good and sadly odd to see a strong female character in a 1970s movie.
Yeah.
But but I'll get back to that as well, I think, because that's another issue sort of with the film. But that's not a bad issue, that's just the interesting issue. But I think now we can discuss the second thing, which is it's a satire, it's a comedy in a way. And I kind of want to discuss this quote and wisecrack again, just check out their podcast as well. There's this famous quote from Marx that history repeats itself first as a farce, then as a tragedy, referring then to Napoleon, I believe. And I think Hegel had something similar, so he was reworking that. I think he was saying first tragedy, then farce, and then Marx reversed it, first as a farce, then as a tragedy. I think because first time you look at history, it's just so, I agree, when you read history, it just looks so idiotic. And then you keep on reading, and the second time you're like, okay, like we're doing the same mistakes over and over again. This is just the repeated of itself. And in this movie, you see, for example, that with jokes, this is like somewhat not related to Marx, but you see a lot of things that become real are started as jokes, like the Mao Sung hour, that started as a joke. That somebody said, well, we're gonna have communists on, and what we're gonna call the Mao Sang, hour. And then you have the killing at the end. It's kind of implied to start as a joke.
Yeah.
And there's always been that joke that a network would kill for a rating. And then it becomes real. So there's this joke fantasy, and the movie sort of starts with tragedy of this man's depression, and it ends with his death in a sort of a jokey fashion, increasingly like fantasized world that he dies in. So it's fascinating though, and I mentioned in the legacy segment that when young people were shown this movie, they didn't find anything, because comedy is about subverting your expectation. But nowadays, frankly, I don't think anybody's expectations are being subverted. We expect the networks to be to act completely.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, I
Unless
didn't
you're
see.
one of the very few people who believe the networks.
I mean, I didn't see. No worries. I didn't see any of it exactly as comedy or satire. The only scene that I was like, okay, this is now a joke, was the last scene where they they assassinate the guy like in the middle of the show, like in the open, like just so like out in the open. But that's the only time that it kind of hit me. Oh yeah, this is some kind of comedy.
No, I think that all the communist, the whole communist subplot with the thing, their discussions, all the juxtapositioning of their belief system with the way they negotiate. Sorry, excuse me for a second.
Your headphones died?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you talk?
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Beautiful.
Yes, sorry. The juxtapositioning of their belief and then the way they would negotiate for distribution and other financial stuff, that was kind of like, I could tell it's a satire there, but a lot of times, yeah, it's just like the whole, like the meeting, like the executive meetings with the girl, like suggesting such outrageous ideas. It's like, oh, that's definitely what a network could do. Yeah. Fox News is based, and it's interesting, by the way. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently in the same decade was when Roger Ailes approached. I think it was. I don't know if it was Nixon or Ford to sort of suggest that the Republicans should set up a network, and then it became Fox News, basically. So yeah, that's about it. But I don't know, what do you think of this satire? Anything else you want to add to the satire?
No, I mean, now I guess when I look back, I mean, even the scene with the big boss and he's screaming at the guy, I mean, it is a bit ridiculous. Although I kind of like, when I watch old movies, I see some of them as being kind of in this weirder way. So I put it down to that, it was like, it's a 70s kind of movie.
That's the thing, though. You're making a mistake. The movies you're thinking about are from 50s and 60s and 70s. You had this new movement, like Godfather, Sidney Lumet, Francis Ford Coppola, Scorsese. All of them came out of it. To a lesser extent, Spielberg, although but yeah, that they were making realistic movies, you
Mhm.
know, that they were making. So this was, I would say, and that scene, in my view, it's one of the best scenes of cinema, especially because you see the guy knows he's dealing with a mentally challenged person,
Mhm.
or you know, has some issues, and he does all these acts and the lighting and all that, and then suddenly he breaks out of it and says, "Do you get me, Mr. Bill? Are you with
Yeah.
me, Mr. Bill?" Like clearly he knows this is like he's doing it for this guy,
Yeah.
and then he goes back to the act, and that's so he's sort of his overacting is a sort of like his character is overacting, not the actor.
Yeah.
That's just, and yeah, I was, yeah, I think Ned Beatley, if I'm not mistaken, uh, should have won the Oscar for that. That was, and by the way, do you know which movie won the Oscar while this movie lost?
No.
This movie lost the Oscar to Rocky.
Already.
A good movie, to be
Yeah.
fair, but
But
yeah.
you're right. I'm not that much into movies, like I said, so I really couldn't tell this difference. But you know, now that I think about it, what's the other movie by the same director who made 2001 A Space Odyssey? Like
Oh,
the
it's Stanley Kubrick.
yeah, what's like one of his
He's
famous older
same
movies?
generation.
Like you know the
Oh,
one where they
his
go
name,
around, like there's a group of
Shining,
no older than that.
uh, Paths of Glory.
No, the one where they go around, it's like a bunch of young guys and they like bully people. And at the end, they go to someone's house and they like beat them up.
Oh,
And they
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange,
Clock.
right? Like, I don't know, sometimes I would get similar kind of vibes from it, but you know, I'm very limited
That's
movie
I would say that's a,
experience.
yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I would say that's a generally more surreal, like not
Yeah, that
surreal,
was
but
more
it's
surreal, but
in
this
that
was surreal too, a
more,
bit. I mean, it seemed
sure,
like
but I
it.
would say that's, yeah, that's more divorced from that's more
Yeah,
symbolic and all that. But
for
yeah, yeah,
sure.
fair enough, fair. And they do come from I think same decade. I'm not sure. I think Clockwork Origin 70s as well. I'm not sure.
Mhm. But yeah, okay, where were we going before that? What was it?
Nothing. Just wanted to wrap up and focus on the last theme that we want to
Please
talk
go
about, which
ahead.
I think that's the main point of the movie, and I think the main getaway is that capitalism in the end, or in corporatism, or whatever you want to call it, in the end, sort of becomes one holistic system, as he calls it, and sort of resistance is futile, and the fact that it incorporates anything and everything, including what it is supposedly it's opposing, or what it supposedly is like. It's and I think that's, to be honest, my major problem with Marx, and I think where this one, like the internal contradictions of the systems, while destabilizing the system within the short term, are what keeps it running in the long term, because over time they become incorporated within the system. Which is a bit of a Durkheim, Emil Durkheim, the famous sociologist, sort of view that you have a problem within society, and the problem sort of gets, as they try to deal with it, the
True.
anomaly becomes like dealt with. But I would say, yeah, that's the biggest power of capitalism, incorporating its own. Look at me, I mean, or you, or anybody. We have to work, earn a
Yeah,
wage, or try to do other stuff like make videos, or do something to get more money, or get more credibility, to do more things and all that. So and we have to exist in this system, so you like, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. So I think that was the biggest theme and the most underlying theme of the
yeah.
movie. I don't know what you think.
I think
And yeah,
if I followed you correctly, I mean, you see that with the character too, right? Because the main character, he's like a madman, which they don't know what to do. I mean, they're gonna fire him, but very quickly they realize that they can turn him into their puppet until kind of things go wrong, and then at the end, he like really brings them into the system by just kind of telling him what to say and what not to say. So I think just at the character level, that's exactly what happens to this guy.
uh, yeah, I agree. And I would say like the lead character is probably William Holden's character, in terms of like Howard Beale is more of a supporting
Mm-hmm.
background sort of guy. And yeah, that guy is sort of pushed out, who's a news producer, in favor of a new generation of news producers who are like her,
Yeah.
who again you know sort of this new generation replacing the old generation. And then he gives that a speech about, yeah, like your generation is, Bugs Bunny television generation. And yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, that's just, I want to focus on that theme for a second.
Yeah.
But if you're done, we can move on. I don't
Yeah,
know.
please do. Yeah.
Sure. All right. Now, I wanted to talk about some of the issues with the film. I do think the movie is a bit preachy. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, I didn't really get that at all.
I mean, this like the whole scene with your generation and my generation thing. Again, like you
normal
mentioned,
people are so much more preachy than that this
Oh,
didn't get
sure.
to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, again, you mentioned internet. I don't think television, I mean, they couldn't have imagined internet then or anything. But the idea that I hated that, nowadays, even a lot of people on the left, like talk about algorithm and Facebook and how they're causing outrage. I think outrage and sensuality, like, I think it's still the highest selling newspapers are usually the football based newspapers, apologies, or the yellow newspapers, celebrity, personal life and all that. So in my view, basically, it's about human nature rather than generation or money. It's just sadly rooted in human nature, and it's a cycle that repeats itself. It's like a moral, like you have a new media introduced, you have a moral panic, and it does. And at first, because it wants to attract attention, it goes to extremes, but then it sort of becomes something normal. Now on YouTube, you have pretty much same programs as you would have on MSNBC, or I don't know, if you watch documentaries, you would have on Nature Channel or something.
Yeah.
So I do. That's one thing that it focuses on, that generation,
and
maybe
the good old days kind of theme and all that.
Good old days. And the second thing, which is an issue I have with a lot of films, and I think a lot of people have worse than I do, is that coming out of the movie, I feel like the girl, obviously, as a character, is more attractive than William Holt. Her ideals, her lifestyle, her way of acting is more attractive than somebody like William Holt. It's kind of like I call it the Scarface issue, that most people, you've seen a Scarface,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And most people who see that movie, they love the main character and they want to emulate him. But the whole point of movie was that, this is a dick. Like he's a dick, he's an idiot who wasted his life and whatever.
I want to become like the woman.
Money.
That's so true. Not like the Scarface woman, the one in this movie.
Oh, thank God.
No.
All right. Yeah.
No, I want to become like the Diane Lady.
Howard Beale is supposed to be an example of a depression and sadness and all that. And instead he becomes something that Alex Jones and Glenn Beck and all that want to become. But then again, I think I have, like, my favorite movies, like Batman, in my view, has the same, like, Nolan trilogy. I don't think Batman is supposed to be the hero, but I think a lot of people think he's the hero, and then they go and criticize the film based on that assumption. So I think that's an issue you get with a lot of films that are nuanced.
But can you talk about it a little bit more? So what do you mean, that people don't understand who's supposed to be the bad person, or the bad person is more attractive than the good person? Or
not the bad, but look, in a stories you can have a hero who's a good guy, goes through a journey, or you can have a protagonist that moves the story forward. Technically, he's neither good or bad, but people who watch the Scarface, or people who, there's another great, the
Scarface one is a great example, though.
Yeah, people want to become them. They don't. That's a cautionary tale. That's a classic Greek tragedy. A good guy in situations is forced to do bad things because of his personality flaws, so he's not excused, and his fall is his own fault, but the situation is his fault as well. So it's a tragedy. It's a cautionary tale.
Mhm.
Not to tell, oh, I want to be him, that guy,
Yeah.
but most people, it's like movies about war. They glorify war, they
Yeah.
don't show. And that's what I loved about Game of Thrones, for example. Like, you have these scenes where people's guts are coming out and they're just screaming in pain, or they're being amputated or something, because that's real war. It's not about cool music and epic
Yeah.
armies. It's about blood and guts and all. So I do think there is a, that's just but again, that's not a problem with the movie. I think that's a problem with human nature again,
But that's
that we find
interesting that
these
you,
things.
out of all people, have a problem with that. I don't know.
With what?
That you don't like that people, I guess, get that movies leave that impression that, I guess, like, the person that's supposed to be the bad person is kind of glorified.
In these type
Yeah.
of movies though, but no, when it's an average Hollywood movie, the bad guy is just
Yeah, of
he's
course.
a cartoon
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. From Russia.
But no, no, but the people miss the point that Howard Build is not a character to.
Neither is the woman,
man
I
with
guess. I don't know if people
neither
were
is the woman.
as
Neither is the
attracted.
one.
Yeah.
Like, William Holden is supposed to be the moral, like, center of the movie, but besides that, Howard Build is a depressed man with mental issues.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. But people think, no, he was a prophet. No, he was somebody who was, he was frustrated like many of us, and he
Yeah.
lost it.
And I think,
But
yeah,
no, like, I've these two issues, and I genuinely do think there's some of the voiceovers, and that's a bit, for me, I don't know, the pre I mean, still
voiceovers
though,
in
I
the
like it.
movie.
Yeah, like yeah, the voiceover, there's a lot of voiceover,
Oh yeah, true.
especially
Yeah,
towards
I
the
mean,
end.
it even starts like that. He's narrating, and he's telling us,
Yeah.
like, the movie is the story about blah blah blah, whose ratings are going down and his wife is in that. And it's funny, even he in the beginning, like the good guy, I forgot his name, he lays out, like, what we can do to get your ratings up, which is for you to commit suicide, and we can turn that into a series and all that. So he kind of foreshadows it, but like 15 minutes into the movie, that becomes the plot of the movie.
Exactly. Yeah, that's jokes becoming realities. But I'm glad you like this one as well. So far, 2 out of 2.
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't even compare the other one to. I mean, the other one, I just watched it. I mean, that one that was okay. I'm not gonna ever rewatch that movie again. What was it called again? The Trial of Chicago 7.
Because if it's on TV, I'll keep it on. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, you're a movie person too, but this movie really touched me.
You said you prefer rewatching movies than you will. But anyways, but
when I really liked it, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, then it's good one. I watched it when I was very young the first time, and I must say I didn't get it at all.
Yeah, true. I mean, what would you understand? I wouldn't, like, maybe you would have. I wouldn't have gotten much.
And yeah, to be fair though, we had satellite TV, and back then, before anywhere else, we had like these outrage shows. So maybe I would have, but I didn't. So then I watched it again in uni. I got it a bit, but then I again watched it after uni, and I really got it. That was good.
Yeah, no, there's so much, and so many things happen. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, even though I watched this 2 days ago, I'm like completely forgetting like stories and like what kind, because it goes back and forth too, right? Like, nonstop. Let's cancel this guy. Let's not cancel this guy. Oh, the other person is like, no, I'm down for him. They literally like fire people and they bring them back. Like the guy who's likable, he gets fired and he gets brought back the next the next day.
The next day.
Yeah. And it was a bit more. Yeah, I mean, that guy was really humane, I guess. He was like the humane guy, right? The good guy.
Yeah.
Because even
too good.
Yeah, too good. I
mean,
right?
he cheated. To be fair, he cheated on his wife, so not that good. But even in that, he was so good. He was like, "Honey, I cheated on you. I don't know. It's my fault." Like, he was like, fuck, I can't even get angry at him.
I know.
So weird.
And he's cheating on the person who got him fired. He's cheating with the person who got him fired, like removed from his role. But he's completely fine with it. And even the main character fucks him over, right? Like, by going on TV and talking shit. But he's like, yeah, come over and sleep at my house tonight. And I'll be looking
a bit of
after
a
you and all this.
that's a bit like he's in such a bad place that
Yeah.
I suppose you can justify that. But yeah, he's super nice.
Yeah.
Bill Holden, nicest man in network.
But yeah, so were there any other points left here, or
No, I think I discussed.
oh, you were
everything.
gonna suggest some movies, no? Also,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to suggest some movies. Thanks for reminding. Check out movies with similar. Ace in a Hole with Kirk Douglas is kind of from 1950s,
oh wow,
and it's about sort of print journalism, and it's very much similar. There's a sort of a tragedy, and then he exploits it, and he
yeah, I
brings
want
the
to watch that
circus.
next.
I think it's called Ace in a Hole or The Circus. Maybe it was called this. Anyways, that's great. Second episode of the first season of Black Mirror, if I'm not mistaken, 15 Million Merits, about a black guy. He's running on a treadmill, and there's point system, and then his girlfriend and all that. Very similar topic, and that's
forgot about Black
that's about
Mirror.
the future. Very similar concept. Rick and Morty actually has a very interesting episode in which they have all these. They're this. It's in a city of Ricks. I mean, you don't watch this show, so you don't understand. But then there's this person who's connected to a machine, and he's living this dream that he's with his daughter, and he gets old, and he's so happy, completely fulfilled. But then you find out that he's connected to a machine, and they took the joy out and put it in this biscuit that they sell, like this wafer that they sell for $1. And stuff, and that's sort of similar, the idea that capitalism even goes to your dreams and extracts the joy out of that. So I think their ideas are increasingly speaking as well with cynicism that you see in cartoons and in movies. It's even becoming more and more of a reference point in the culture. But Ace in a Hole and Black Mirror I would highly suggest, because they both sort of deal with different mediums but same story, and I think that's the key to the thing. Because which books sell more, Harry Potter or Karl Marx or Adam Smith or whoever? I'm just saying, the genre, besides that, rather than the quality and all that. So I don't think it was television. This is partially, by the way, I have a great love for television because as a child I didn't have much access to cinema, so I hate all these people who are anti-television, and I think check out these works. I think you would, if you enjoyed this, I think you would enjoy them as well.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, or like you started by saying, there's so many subplots. There are so many. So if we missed some, and some of you have watched the movie, let us know in the comment section what you thought about it, and if there are any plots that were interesting but we didn't explore here. That'll be good to hear too.
Nothing you wanted to mention? There was something you mentioned earlier. We said we're going to leave it for later.
No, I think I jumped in a bunch of times, and maybe even this time it was my fault, maybe, if we weren't as structured and stuff, because I got really excited a few times. No, I think that was it.
Sorry for rambling.
No,
it was just me rambling about how I like this one.
No. Yeah, I think that's it. So we can wrap this up, and folks can let us know what they thought in the comment section. But yeah, that was it, and we'll do another one soon.
Yeah, and to be honest, I really hope, again, it's like my UK thingy. I hope this becomes a regular thing. So like, share, tell us if you want to just do more, suggest even maybe movies.
Yeah.
Although we still have a couple backed up. So.
True. Okay. All right. Beautiful. Well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.